A new year and new horror movies. These most anticipated lists are a bit weird because you never know what movie is going to be good and what movie is going to be bad. Most of the most anticipated movies turn out to be failures and disappointments. When I think about the most anticipated movies for me, it's mostly about the director behind them or the writer behind them or both. Or if the concept is promising. And what I mean by the director or writer behind them is that I look at their previous work. If their previous work was good, then most of the time their new projects also are good. So without further ado, here is my list of the most anticipated movies of 2025. Number 5. Saw 11. And this is something I never would have thought because I don't think the Saw franchise as a whole is that particularly good. I mean, most of the movies are not that good, and I would never have thought that I would put a Saw movie on my most anticipated list. But with how good Saw 10 was, I was very pleasantly surprised because that was a great installment in the franchise. It brought back the quality to the franchise fully. I was amazed of how well written it was and how well directed it was. And that's not something I say lightly about a Saw movie. Kevin Greutert really did an amazing job with directing this movie, and he was previously the editor of the earlier installments in this franchise. It was a Saw movie with a lot more depth to it than what we are used to since the original movie. So for once I really don't mind them making another Saw movie because as long as it holds this kind of high level, then there's no issue with making more Saw movies. Number 4. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Legacy sequel. Or should I say the real I Know What You Did Last Summer 3? Because the original I Know What You Did Last Summer 3 was really awful. Bad on every level imaginable because that was a straight to DVD or straight to streaming movie. Not that every streaming movie is bad, but that was really a bad movie with no connection to the first two movies. So we really deserve a third movie with all the original characters intact. Well, all the original characters that are still alive, at least. From what I read or understood, Jennifer Love Hewitt will be back and so will Freddie Prinze Jr. The rest will be a young new cast. And that is of course the typical route you go with a legacy sequel, and of course I'm also tired of the legacy sequel when they are done in a bad way. When you put too much effort into previous things that happened in the franchise, then it's not that interesting to see a legacy sequel. But when you have a new, good story with the previous characters, then it can be interesting. And hopefully this will be one of the better legacy sequels. Even though the first two movies aren't perfect, but they were fun, they had energy, and a good enough story, so I'm very excited for this legacy sequel. This movie will be released in July, so it will be a summer horror movie. Hopefully it won't disappoint. Number 3. Wolfman. This one is releasing as soon as this month, January 17th. And it is another reboot of The Wolfman. This has been done several times before with varying results. And with Blumhouse producing, the expectations are a bit lower than usual because their latest projects have not been that good lately. But with Leigh Whannell directing and co-writing, the expectations are high still because he's a good director. He directed the Invisible Man remake, and that was a great movie. And before that he made Upgrade, that was not horror but a great movie still. And before that he wrote most of the Saw movies. That's maybe not that flattering, but he wrote the original movie and he did some good movies, at least the three. He didn't write All of them. He wrote the 3 first, and those were still good enough. So I'm both excited and have my expectations tempered because it's Blumhouse that still are producing this. They have the biggest control over the project. But hopefully Leigh Whannell still manages to make a good movie for us. Number 2, The Black Phone 2. Or at least that's what it's called at the moment. The first movie came out in the summer of 2022. And it ended up being one of the best horror movies of that year. Having this movie that is very 70s in style, both visually and how it's told. The script takes place in the 70s, and it's about this child murderer and snatcher called the Grabber, played by Ethan Hawke, in a role that he is really terrific in, and the whole movie is really fantastic too. It blends a thriller and supernatural themes in it. It's both a thriller and a supernatural horror movie. Even though I didn't think it blended those two subgenres to perfection, I thought it was a really great movie overall. And this year we are getting the sequel. And it's releasing October 17th. There is not much details on the story or plot about this sequel, but Scott Derrickson is back as the director and he's co-writing the script with Robert Carlyle. They were both involved in the first movie, so there's no change of director and writer, which is a good thing because the first movie was good, and that they kept the director and writer of the first movie is a great thing. Usually, in most cases, the director of the first movie or the writer of the first movie leaves the sequel because they usually don't feel they have more to tell in the story, so it's exciting that they are both back for this sequel. Unless it gets delayed, The Black Phone 2 is a movie I'm very excited for, definitely, and it's number 2 on my list. Number 1, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. This movie is releasing on Netflix. It's a Netflix production, but what gets me excited is that Guillermo del Toro is directing this. I'm very curious about his version to this story. Frankenstein story is a very well-known story. The book is very well-known and there has been many movies on the story too. But I'm very excited for his version because he has a unique style and he tells stories in a unique way. He is one of the best filmmakers working today. And it's not his first time working with Netflix. He made the most recent version of Pinocchio on Netflix. Not the Disney version that released about the same time, but the Netflix one that is streaming on Netflix. It was directed by him and it's a fantastic animated movie. Much better than the one Disney made. Disney's version felt very empty, while Del Toro's version felt like a unique story, like a touching story. It was really wonderful. And now he's adapting Frankenstein. And this story, it has been done many times. It is repetitive, but I think he can add a new perspective to it. His movies can get dark, they can get touching, and he's very good at that. So I think he can add more layers to the story, even though the original story is very layered, but I think he can really do something with the material, do something special with the material. So that is the horror movie that I'm most excited about, at least from the movies that I know about right now. There can be many movies during the year that I will put above these on this list because there's always some surprises that get released and we get something that we didn't know about that is great. There are of course movies that I didn't put on this list that I'm also excited for, like Thanksgiving 2. I'm pretty excited for that, even though it's not top of my list, but I'm excited for it. I'm also excited about another Frankenstein story that is called The Bride with Christian Bale. So there's a ton of movies that I didn't put on this list, but I'm sure I will get to talk about them during the year. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Also, don't forget to smash the bell icon so that you don't miss any of my future videos. This has been Boogeyman Cinema. Thank you for watching.